The imperial palace shimmered beneath towering crystal chandeliers, their light scattering like frozen stars across polished marble floors. Silk gowns brushed softly against stone. Champagne glasses chimed in delicate rhythms. Conversations flowed in measured whispers, as refined and calculated as the empire itself. And then, in the very center of the grand hall, silence descended. Duke Maximilian von Edelstein stood tall and immovable, his gloved hand clasping the trembling fingers of a young woman whose presence seemed both fragile and defiant. Every noble in the room watched. His voice carried through the chamber, deep, controlled, unyielding. "One kiss, Miss Valeria, and afterward you will have your freedom." A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd before dying abruptly. Valeria Mendoza slowly lifted her face. Her dark eyes shimmered with restrained tears, but there was no pleading in them, only awareness. She understood power, she understood traps, and she understood that this man did not make promises lightly, nor did he break them without reason. Yet she also knew she had no choice. The Duke leaned closer. His lips brushed hers, softly, unexpectedly gentle. The kiss was not forceful, not possessive. It was something far more dangerous. It was sincere. And in that instant, something shifted inside him. Because when he pulled away, Maximilian knew a truth he would never speak aloud. He had just lied. After that kiss, he would never let her go. Vienna, winter of 1852. Snow blanketed the cobbled streets of the imperial capital. Carriages carved dark lines through white silence. Church bells echoed across the Danube, their solemn tones swallowed by cold air that pierced bone and pride alike. Inside the vast halls of Edelstein Palace, roaring fireplaces failed to warm the heart of its master. Maximilian von Edelstein, 32 years old, stood near the tall windows of his private study, watching frost gather along the glass. He was the most powerful duke in the empire outside the imperial family itself. His lands were vast, his influence undeniable. His presence commanded attention without effort. Tall, dark-haired, eyes the color of sharpened steel. Men respected him, women desired him, but no one truly knew him. From childhood, he learned that affection was a weakness best extinguished early. His father, a rigid, merciless aristocrat, had taught him discipline through fear. His mother had taught him abandonment. She left during a thunderstorm when he was 6. He remembered the sound of the door closing more clearly than her voice. From that night forward, he built walls inside himself that no one would ever breach. Until her. Valeria Mendoza had not been born into nobility. Her father, a Spanish merchant who dealt in silks and rare spices, had carved his fortune through ambition and relentless work. For a time their home was warm, lively, filled with laughter and music from distant lands. Then death arrived swiftly and without mercy. After her father's passing, partners betrayed contracts, creditors descended like carrion birds, and wealth dissolved into dust. At 24, Valeria found herself alone in a world that devoured the unprotected. Her only refuge was Countess Federica von Lichtenberg, an elderly aristocrat who had once been her mother's dear friend. The Countess offered her shelter, not as family, but as companion. Valeria learned refinement quickly. French and Italian conversation, the disciplined grace of the waltz, the measured smile of polite society. But she never forgot she did not belong. She carried herself with quiet dignity. Dark chestnut hair arranged elegantly, expressive eyes that revealed too much if one looked carefully, lips that smiled rarely but sincerely. She needed no jewels to command attention, and that made her dangerous, especially to Baron Klaus von Adler. Klaus, cousin to the Duke and his most trusted advisor, possessed wealth and influence of his own. Yet beneath his courteous exterior lived ambition, sharpened by envy. He desired power, and if Duke Maximilian were ever removed from succession without heirs, the line of inheritance would favor him. Thus, Maximilian must remain unmarried, or better yet, married to someone easily controlled. Valeria was neither. The night of the imperial ball, she entered the palace on the arm of Countess Federica, wearing a deep blue velvet gown, borrowed and slightly too tight at the waist. Pearls, her mother's last gift, rested against her ears. Whispers followed her. The merchant's daughter. The ruined one. She lifted her chin. She would not bow to cruelty. Across the hall, Maximilian turned almost instinctively. Their eyes met. Time fractured. She did not flirt. She did not lower her gaze. She simply looked at him with a mixture of sadness and strength that unsettled him in ways battlefields never had. Klaus saw it, and he began to plan. 2 weeks later, a sealed letter bearing the Edelstein crest arrived. Valeria's hands trembled as she broke the wax. The Duke requested her presence regarding unresolved debts left by her late father. Debts. She had believed everything settled. At the palace, Maximilian received her in his study. The air smelled of leather and burning wood. Klaus stood near the window like a silent shadow. The document was placed before her. 50,000 florins. Her father's signature. Her heart plummeted. "I have nothing," she whispered. Maximilian's voice was calm, almost detached. "I am aware. Therefore, I offer an alternative. 6 months. An official companion for the social season, public appearances, representation, appearances maintained. In exchange, the debt erased." The Countess protested. Maximilian did not waver. Valeria understood the unspoken truth. Without acceptance, she faced debtor's prison. She signed. Life inside Edelstein Palace was cold formality. Separate quarters. Measured conversations. Careful distance. Yet beneath that restraint something stirred. She noticed his insomnia, the way he stood alone in crowded rooms, the exhaustion he carried like invisible armor. He noticed her resilience, the way she endured whispers without complaint, the way music transformed her expression when she touched piano keys. One evening, returning from a suffocating dinner among aristocrats, snow falling gently around their carriage, she dared to ask, "Why do you never smile?" "Because there is little reason." "There is always something," she replied softly, "even if it is only memory." He almost answered harshly. Instead, he remained silent and held her hand one heartbeat longer than necessary. Then illness struck. She collapsed in a corridor, pale and burning with fever. For the first time in years, fear pierced him. He carried her himself, summoned Dr. Friedrich Adler, Vienna's most respected physician. Winter fever, aggravated by exhaustion and malnutrition. She had been eating less, trying not to burden the household. For 3 days, he did not leave her side. When she finally opened her eyes, she found him asleep in a chair, still holding her hand. No one had cared for her like that since her father. When she recovered, something unspoken connected them. He began asking her opinion. She played piano after supper. They walked in snow-laced gardens. He smiled, rarely, but truly, and Klaus watched with rising fury. The Imperial Opera was the season's crown jewel. Valeria descended the palace staircase in a wine-colored velvet gown embroidered in silver thread. For a moment, Maximilian forgot how to breathe. "You are extraordinary," he murmured. At intermission, Klaus approached with champagne. Minutes after sipping, Valeria grew dizzy. The room spun. Maximilian caught her before she fell. Later, the physician confirmed it. Laudanum. Drugged. Humiliated before the Empire. Maximilian confronted Klaus. The denial was flawless, but war had begun. Rumors spread viciously. She was manipulative, drunken, seductive. Letters appeared, false love notes to married nobles. Society turned cruel. Valeria endured silently, until one night, broken by humiliation, she wept behind closed doors. Maximilian entered. He held her, and in that embrace, truth shattered his final wall. He loved her. The kiss they shared was not reckless passion, it was recognition. Two wounded souls finding refuge. "I love you," he confessed. "And I you," she answered. "But love may not be enough." Klaus's final strike came swiftly. He accused her formally before the ducal council. Fraud, manipulation, forged debt. Trial in 3 days. Maximilian searched tirelessly for proof. Then Valeria made her own decision. She would leave. If she disappeared, the accusations would collapse. She wrote a letter of farewell, left before midnight. Snow swallowed her footprints, but Maximilian felt her absence like a blade. He found her near the Danube bridge, trembling in cold silence. "Do not choose for me," he said fiercely. "If we fall together." She returned. Together, they uncovered the truth.
The debt document was dated 3 months after her father's death. The notary seal had been stolen, and an elderly former housekeeper brought forward Klaus's hidden ledger, bribes and forged payments recorded meticulously. At trial, evidence crushed deception. Klaus von Adler was stripped of title and exiled from the Austrian Empire. Valeria was declared innocent, her name restored. Outside the council hall, sunlight pierced winter clouds. Maximilian turned to her. "You are free." She smiled. "I already chose." And she kissed him before the watching world. Spring of 1853, the wedding took place in St. Stephen's Cathedral. White silk embroidered with cherry blossoms, ducal regalia gleaming beneath sacred light. The ceremony was simple yet profound. Not an alliance, not a strategy. Love. That evening in the palace gardens, where winter had surrendered to blossoms, they sat beneath emerging stars. "Are you happy?" he asked. "More than I believed possible." "And you?" "With you, I am no longer hollow." Years followed. She transformed the palace into a place of warmth and music, founded a school for orphaned girls. He supported her every vision. Each winter, when snow returned to Vienna, they sat by the fire. He read poetry, she played piano. They remembered the broken promises, the battles, the kiss that changed everything. He had lied when he promised her freedom after that first kiss, but it was the best lie of his life, because that kiss did not imprison her. It set them both free.